When I started working out, I was spamming push-ups like an anime MC in the hopes that my shoulders would grow, but they didn't. It turns out that you only need 3 exercises to grow anime level shoulders, and in this video, I'll show you what they are, how to do them at home or at the gym, and even a secret tip for each of them to maximize your gains that most people overlook. Each exercise will hit one of the 3 heads of the shoulder: the front delt, the side delt, and the rear delts. Delt is short for deltoid, which is just the scientific name for the shoulder, kind of like how if someone wants to grow their glutes, all they're saying is they want a big ass. The first exercise will be for our front delts, and that is overhead press. And if you're at home, we can do pike push-ups. You want to train your overhead press with low reps and heavier weight because this is a very strong movement. This is one of your main pressing movements, and it's very safe to fail. Like compared to like a bench press or a squat where if you fail, you're just kind of stuck under the bar. With overhead press, if you fail, you just don't get the weight up and you just re-rack it. To actually do this exercise, you'll almost want to lean back a little bit at the bottom. And then as you push up, make sure you're pushing through your entire body. You're really bracing with your legs and with your core to get that weight up. You kind of straighten out at the top. So there's almost like a little rocking motion to it where you're at the bottom, you're leaning back, then at the top, you're leaning forward, right? You're kind of like going back and forth like this. It will be a little bit slower just because you are pushing quite heavy and you might be resting for a second or two at the bottom, but it's a great exercise for strength and it's going to develop your front delt very well. And you don't really need any other exercises for this muscle group other than your overhead pressing, because your horizontal pressing, like your push-ups or your bench press, that's also going to be hitting your front delt. But if we want to really make sure our front delt is growing, we don't need to do any other variations. We don't need to do any isolations. That's all you really need to get optimally grown front delts. Now for the pike push-up, you're just going to kind of get into a push-up position, but you're going to put your legs a lot higher. So your butt is up a lot higher in the air and you're kind of going down as if you're trying to do an overhead press, but your legs are still on the ground. So kind of think of it like that. And a big mistake that I always see with beginner lifters, and I don't know why just the common media portrays push-ups like this, but you don't want to flare your elbows to the side. Do not do that. You'll get elbow pains. It's gonna feel really awkward. You want your elbows to go straight back. And if you do that, it might be a little bit harder, but it's safer, and that's how you actually perform the exercise properly. And if that gets too easy for you at some point after you continue growing and getting stronger, then you can do like an assisted wall handstand push-up where you're not actually doing like a full handstand because that's like a whole movement on its own that you have to train for. But you can just put your legs on the wall and do overhead presses just as if you're doing like a handstand, but you have the wall to help support you. So now your entire body weight is being used on your shoulders. Now, I just want to make this point clear. This isn't even related to the whole shoulder stuff, but if you're training at home, it is so important that you push close to failure. Like this is such a big mistake that I see all the time, and I did myself when I was training at home. And it's that because you don't have that heavy weights, you are just kind of saying, oh, I'll go to 12, 15 reps because that's what most workout programs say. And I'll just stop there because I hit my 12 reps, so I'm good, right? No, you are not in the gym to perform reps. You're there to build your muscles. And if you want to build your muscles, you have to tax all of your muscle fibers so that they can actually grow back stronger. And if you want your muscles to grow back stronger, you're not going to get that if you're just kind of lifting some weights around and you're like, oh, this feels nice, and then you stop. You need to push close to failure, to the point where you can't even do another rep no matter how hard you try. That is the point when you'll actually be building muscle. Now, you may be at failure with your movements right now because you're still getting started and everything's difficult, but very quickly, you will get stronger, and those same movements will need to increase in difficulty to continue building muscle. And so what does that mean? Well, you're probably gonna just have to do a harder variation. Now, there's a whole bunch of other things that you can do. Like I made an entire video on the different mistakes that beginners make, and then one of the points was how to train harder. So I'm not gonna recover that, and I'll just link the video at the top. But essentially, just do a harder variation, right? So if you're doing normal push-ups, you can do diamond push-ups or explosive push-ups, right? Don't just continue doing the same thing over and over again, expecting to get different results. Now, of course, if you're a complete noob and you have literally never stepped foot inside of a gym, maybe this is like your first week of working out, you don't want to be training that hard, because think about it. You've never pushed yourself like this before. Your body isn't used to the stimulus of working out. And so what that means is if you tried really hard and you pushed till your body couldn't lift the weight anymore, you would get something called delayed onset muscle soreness, or just DOMS. And that means like after a few days, you're gonna get incredibly sore. You're just not gonna be able to fucking move. And it takes you out of the gym for a week. Like I'm telling you, dude, most people do not do this. Most people are lifting like pussies, barely even moving the weight. They're training and then it gets a little bit difficult and they just stop there. And that's the reason why most people have shitty physiques. And this was the thing that was holding me back for the longest time. And I want to make sure that you get set on the right foot and you don't make that same mistake. Now, this is just one mistake of many. And if you want an entire roadmap where I lay out the exact system that you must follow to build muscle in the gym, but also stick to the gym and even want to go to the gym, you'll make your brain crave working out. If you want that entire roadmap, I made an entire course on how to do exactly that, called the Training Arc Blueprint. I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested in that. But let me move on to the secret tip for overhead pressing and training your front delts that I wish I knew. And that is, you really need to focus on the stretch. If you are just kind of doing overhead presses like most people do, they're just kind of half repping it at the top. Why? That's because the top is the easy part of the lift. When you get tired, just lifting that weight out from the bottom is gonna be really difficult. And so if we want to get better results than most people, we've got to do what most people don't do. And that's actually train with a full range of motion and a deep stretch. When you do your overhead presses, you want to go really far down, touch that barbell to your chest just lightly, and then you push up again. And if you want an even better stretch, you can do overhead presses with dumbbells. And again, most people with dumbbells, they just stay at the top and they just pump it out, half reps, but that's not gonna be what's building you the most muscle. If you really wanna build those big shoulders, go deep, feel that nice stretch, and that will be the key for you. And if you're doing this with pike push-ups, what you can do is try to find a ledge to do your pike push-ups off of, so then you can go even further down. If you want to invest in some equipment, you can get some parallettes. That just allows you to go even further down. Or if there's like a public playground and there's like two sidebars there, you can, go down below that. There's things that you can do to get this deeper stretch at home as well. So don't think that this doesn't apply to you. You 100% can get a deep stretch to get big shoulders at home. Now for our second exercise for hitting our side delts, we will be doing lateral raises. This applies for whether you're working out at home or at the gym, because the lateral raise is the bread and butter of training your side delts. Obviously, you wanna just do this with dumbbells. It's just the most accessible version of this exercise. But even if you don't have any dumbbells at home, you can just take a backpack and fill it up with weights. And here's the thing, dude. Because lateral raises, you want to train with higher reps because we really want to grow it. We don't wanna train it for strength or anything. We can actually use very light weights and get away with big shoulders. So usually I would suggest maybe 10 to 15 pounds at most for a beginner doing lateral raises, because we wanna do maybe 12 to 15, maybe even 20 reps. For lateral raises, you want to lean forward slightly when you do this exercise, because if you stand up straight like you're doing a fucking T-pose, it's actually gonna be hitting some of your traps, right? So the muscles around your neck that connect into your shoulders, we'll just call it that. And that isn't what we want to be hitting. And also if you're doing it fully straight up, it'll actually hit some of your front delt. Yeah, there's actually a lot more overlap between the different heads of the shoulders for these exercises than you might think. And sometimes I see people do lateral raises really high, they go up to the moon and back. You don't really need to do that. You could just get your arms to be parallel with the ground and you're fine. And make sure you don't let that weight just fall to the ground once you get it to the top. We're not using momentum here. We're controlling it on the way up and on the way back down. And if you're just swinging the weights around, you're not actually using the muscle to lift it, Don't just swing it up and then let it fall back down to the ground with gravity. Control it on the way down. You don't have to do a really long, drawn-out pause that takes like 15 seconds. As long as you can control it and it's not like falling to the ground forcefully, that's fine. Now, here is the secret tip that most people don't really talk about for the lateral raise. And that's, you want to grab the dumbbell at the head of the dumbbell so that you put your shoulder into external rotation. This small little tweak helps you target the side delt more effectively. And when you do this, naturally, your pinkies are gonna be slightly higher than your thumbs because we're also leaning forward a little bit. So to keep the dumbbell parallel, we kind of have to have that little bit of rotation in there. And we're gonna be taking some of our traps out of it. We're actually taking some of our front delt out of it. And it's just overall a better stimulus to grow our shoulders with. If you don't have dumbbells, I just want you to think about if you're pouring a glass of water, right? Because when you're pouring a glass of water, your wrist naturally rotates a little bit. And so when your wrist rotates, your pinkies naturally start to come up a little bit higher than your thumbs. And that's how you get that external rotation that really gets you the extra benefit out of this exercise. And by the way, dude, if you're enjoying this video, please leave a comment down below saying that you like this and you want more of this so then I know to keep doing this. And if there's a specific muscle group that you want me to cover, leave a comment down below and I'll do whichever muscle group gets the most comments. Now for the third and final exercise to grow anime level shoulders, we're gonna be hitting our rear delts with reverse flies. Rear delts are the most neglected head of the shoulder. And that's probably because most beginner routines completely ignore it. That means we're gonna wanna stay light and also do high reps just like we did with the lateral raise. Now for the lateral raise, we were doing maybe 10, 15 pound dumbbells. For reverse flies, we're gonna do probably 5 to 10, and that should be plenty. Maybe even no weight at all. We're gonna do this on an incline bench if you have one at the gym, and don't worry, I'll cover what to do if you don't. But just go on the incline bench and grab the dumbbells in your hand and just kind of bring it back. Make sure to go slowly, and of course we're using the light weight because if we go too heavy and we go too fast, we're gonna start recruiting the other back muscles. And we want to target specifically our rear delts. And so going slow and going light will help us isolate that muscle. Just raise the weight until it's parallel to the ground and then control it on the way back down. It's like very similar to the lateral raise, but we're just doing it at a different angle to target the different head of the shoulder. And again, just like for lateral raises, we want our pinkies to be slightly higher than our thumbs. So just imagine you're pouring a glass of water, and that's gonna help us target our rear delts just a little bit more and get more benefit out of the same exercise. If you're doing this exercise at home, you can lay on the side of your bed and just do one arm at a time. Or if you have 2 dumbbells that you can hold, what you can do is you can just lean over so that your back is parallel to the ground, and then you just do the exercise like that. This means you can still train your rear delts even if you're at home, so there's no excuses, man. We're gonna get you those anime shoulders. Now for the secret tip for training your rear delts that most people overlook is that you have to train with a variety of angles. If you're doing reverse flies from a 35-degree angle bench, sometimes do a flat bench or sometimes do a 15-degree bench. And the reason why we want to do this is because the rear delt and the side delt, they're not all like individual things. There's actually multiple different muscle fibers and muscle groupings within the side delt, within the rear delt. And so if we only hit our rear delt from, let's say, just like a completely flat bench, we're actually only going to be hitting specific muscle fibers within the rear delt, and certain ones won't be hit. Like, let me tell you, dude, when I first started training my rear delts, I didn't know this. And so you could literally see the areas of my rear delt where I spammed one exercise and grew those muscle fibers, and then the muscle fibers of my rear delt, which didn't grow. Like, it's actually kind of fucking sad because I didn't know this and now I have to like go back and train it properly. So let me tell you this now so that you don't make the same mistake that I did. Do multiple degrees of incline. So let's do flat bench, do 15, do 35. If you're doing bent over without any bench, keep in mind that, okay, sometimes you'll bend over to be parallel. Sometimes you'll bend over slightly less. If you do this, you will optimally and fully grow that rear delt from all angles so that you don't have any imbalances in your rear delts like I did. And if you only do one exercise for your rear delts, you're gonna end up with this imbalance. So yeah, dude, those are the only 3 exercises that you need to grow fully well-rounded anime level shoulders. And if you just stay consistent with the gym, you continue pushing hard, you will do this, dude. Like, I know it can seem so far off to be like, what, I'm kind of skinny, I'm unconfident, I don't really know what to do. But I'm telling you, if you follow this, you can build those anime shoulders that you want. Just continue with the gym, keep pushing, and I know that you will build that dream body of yours. But this is all under the assumption that you actually stay consistent with working out. And I remember when I got started working out, staying consistent with the gym was really fucking difficult. Like, I would have moments where I'm doing really great and I'm sticking to it, and then I'd take like a week off and then I skip workouts. For anime watchers, consistency is probably the biggest issue that we will face. And so if you want to find the strategy to never skipping the gym ever again, I actually made an entire video on that, which I'll link right here for you to watch.